Three spine-chilling true horror stories of sinister summer vacations. Unexplained dangers revealed. The Thompsons were just an all-American family looking forward to their summer break. They hadn't envisioned horror lying in wait as they left their comfortable suburb in Indianapolis, with a car packed with laughter, hot dogs, and a sense of adventure. Excitement buzzed in the air as they drove past familiar farms and weathered gas stations, each mile pulling them further from the ordinary. Yet, an uneasy feeling strangled the joy, a nagging whisper in the back of their minds saying something wasn't right. When they arrived at the weathered cabin nestled in the heart of the Appalachian woods, the first thing that hit them was the smell of damp wood and pine. Birdsong echoed in the distance, a soothing contrast to their rapidly thumping hearts. Sitting by the crackling campfire, roasting marshmallows, the family shared ghost stories and absurd jokes, lost in a bubbly world of unfiltered family time. But as twilight fell, strange rustlings nudged their senses. The shadows dueled with flickering light, and something felt off. Just squirrels, right? Dad chuckled nervously, but even he couldn't shake the heaviness settling over their shoulders. As the night deepened, the air grew thick with anticipation. And then it happened. Lily, their youngest, disappeared. An hour of terrifying silence passed before she returned, trembling and wide-eyed. The breath knocked from her body, claiming she had met the woman in white. A chill crawled up their spines, twisting the familial warmth into something grotesquely alien. Panic flooded the cabin like cold water. Frantic searches in the woods led them to local lore tales of vacationers who vanished into shadows, leaving only echoes behind. An old woman in town, her voice quivering like a leaf in the breeze, shared haunting stories of a dilapidated schoolhouse nearby, once an institution for troubled teens, where children had supposedly disappeared, swallowed by dark secrets. The tales clawed at their sanity, each word twisting their stomachs tighter. "Are you telling me the cops just ignored all this?" Dad snarled, incredulous. But the more they dug, the more they uncovered. Whispers of corrupt authority crept into the family's narrative, sending shivers down their spines. Were the friendly faces in the diner concealing sinister truths over summer pies? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The Thompsons' trust eroded, replaced by paranoia as darkness wrapped around them like a vice. Lost not only in the woods but in a web of fear, they decided to confront the horrifying schoolhouse at midnight. Armed with flashlights that flickered like fragile hopes, they approached the rotting door. Each creak pushed them closer to the brink, as the haunting echoes of their daughter's laughter mingled with the woods around them. With hearts pounding, they stepped inside. The air thickened, cold and suffocating, a deadweight that stifled their breaths. Then, it happened, a faint giggle. Not Lily's. Panic mobbed their minds as the sickening truth clawed at the corners of their temples. Would they uncover the darkness lurking in the shadows, or become another faded page in the town's sinister history? The night held its breath, waiting. The heavy silence wrapped around the Thompsons as they stepped deeper into the schoolhouse. Their flashlights flickered like dying stars, illuminating peeling paint and shattered windows, the decay oozing stories of the past. Everything felt heavy, oppressive, as if the very walls held their breath, reluctant to share their dark secrets. "Did you hear that?" Lily squeaked, clutching her father's leg, eyes wide with fear. The giggle sounded again, echoing off the walls, chilling them to the bone, a sweet, mocking sound that seemed to taunt them. "Stay close," Mom whispered, her voice steady but her hands trembling. They moved cautiously, each step crunching on dirt and broken glass, the darkness thickening, strangling their resolve. As they ventured further, their lights danced over remnants of desks, rotting books, and scribbled names that hinted at long-lost lives. Tommy, their eldest, aimed his beam at a faded poster plastered on the wall. "Look at this. Education for the unruly. What does that even mean?" "Let us just find out what happened here," Dad said, driven by a strange mixture of anger and fear. The ancient floor creaked beneath their weight, the very structure groaning as if it were alive. In a dim corner, a door stood ajar. The sight made their hearts race, though curiosity gnawed at them. Dread pulled harder. They gathered their courage and moved toward it, the temperature dropping with each tentative step. As they pushed it open, an overwhelming darkness consumed them. They stumbled into what appeared to be a classroom. Dust hung thick in the air, swirling in the beams of their flashlights, and the scent of mildew filled their noses. The atmosphere was suffocating, pressing down on them like a heavy blanket. Suddenly, another giggle sounded, this time closer, and they froze. No one spoke, fear gripping them tight. The giggle transformed into a child's whisper, soft yet sharp enough to slice through the silence. It echoed, seeming to come from all corners. "Come play with us, Lily. Please don't move," Mom warned, gripping her daughter's arm tightly. As if sensing their vulnerability, the shadows seemed to pulse and writhe around them. Out of the darkness, a figure emerged. She was small and clad in a tattered white dress, her hair disheveled, eyes wide and unblinking. It was the woman from the stories, the woman in white. The Thompsons gasped, hearts pounding, as her expression flickered from innocence to something that sent chills down their spines. The girl extended her hand, beckoning them closer, mockery weaving into her soft, sweet voice. "Why are you afraid? We just want to play. What do you want from us?" Dad's voice cracked, desperation rising in his throat like bile. "Oh, Daddy, we just want to take you away," the girl cooed, something dark edging the sweetness of her tone. Panic erupted. They turned to run, but the door slammed shut, echoing like a finality, a trap sewn from nightmares. The shadows converged, revealing other ghostly figures, their faces twisted in torment. Join us, they whispered, the chorus engulfing the room. The Thompsons backed against the wall, breathless and desperate, surrounded by a haunting embrace that felt like a living nightmare. "What do we do?" Lily whimpered, fear glistening in her eyes. Just then, a loud bang vibrated the corridors. The walls moaned in response, shaking both the structure and their resolve. Outside, dim headlights surged into the clearing, a pulse of light in the suffocating blackness. "We have to get to the door," Mom shouted, but the shadows danced around them, mocking their every movement. Their escape seemed closer, yet impossibly far. They felt time stretching, twisting like a darkened knife. As they lunged forward, grasping the handle, one last whisper slithered around them. "You can't leave. You belong to us now." Would the Thompsons break free from the school's grip, or would they succumb to the despairing embrace of lost souls? The question throbbed in their minds as the night teetered on the edge of terror. The handle felt hot beneath Dad's trembling grip as they yanked it, but the door held firm, unyielding like the school itself. From the far corner, the woman's laughter rang out again, ricocheting off the walls, growing more and more frantic. "You can't leave, you can't leave." Each repetition twisted the knife of fear deeper into their hearts. "They're all around us," Mom gasped, her eyes darting to the shadows that pooled menacingly. Shapes shifted and converged, whispering the same terrible tune, and every syllable wrapped around them like chains. The shadows of children, once innocent, were tainted now, their faces masks of sorrow and mischief. Dad felt bile rising in his throat. "We have to find another way," he said, his voice raw, but the words were swallowed by the laughter. The pressure of the thick air constricted his chest. He looked around, desperate, as the whispers grew louder, drowning out the distant sounds of the headlights outside. "Over there," Tommy yelled, pointing toward a cracked window that appeared just out of reach, cloaked in years of dust and neglect. "On the count of 3, Mom shouted, grounding the rapid panic threatening to spiral. 1, 2, 3. They charged as one, crashing against the door, each blow sending shockwaves through their terrified frames. The sound of splintering wood filled the room, echoing their frantic hearts, and then, with a sharp cracking sound, the door burst open. They stumbled out into the corridor, lungs full of fresh air laced with a tinge of mildew, and the hissing whispers dimmed. But as they rushed toward the exit at the end of the hall, the stuttering giggles erupted behind them, darker now, more menacing. "Don't go. We want to play." The children walled them in, their voices merging into a cacophony, the sound blending with the ghostly rattling of class bells that now felt alive again, echoing through the empty halls. Run, Dad shouted, and they raced, slipping on the dust-covered floor, hearts pounding like wild drums. The headlights outside dimmed, flickering ominously. With each step, it felt as if the dark was reaching out, clawing at their legs, siphoning away their strength, in the motion of survival. Another thought pierced through the chaos. What about the school? What had truly happened here? Rounding the corner, they saw the entrance. The heavy wooden door loomed like a guardian, but the whispers swelled, echoing louder, clamoring for their retreat. You can't. You belong. Slamming against the door, they pushed with a collective strength, sweat slicking their palms as they heaved. The door sputtered open slightly, offering a glimpse of the outside world cloaked in deep shadows. There was no turning back now, but as they surged into the open air, the laughter faded to a chilling whisper that swept through the trees. We'll see you soon. They were free, yet the shadows writhed behind them, pulsating with something sinister, something that followed. Breathing in the cool night air, they stumbled across the threshold into the moonlight, but not a single sigh of relief escaped them. They could still feel the heavy hands of the lost children tugging at their hearts from inside the school. Did we really escape? Tommy murmured, his voice trembling. Where do we go now? Lily's question hung in the damp night air, as if the very question invited the darkness closer. And in that moment, a shrill laughter broke the silence once more, but now it came from above, a shadow darker than the night itself. It glided silently over their heads, blending into the starlit sky. Dad's breath caught. What was that? What they didn't realize was that the school's grip had tightened, entwining around them still, like a spider's web, drawing them back into its embrace, waiting patiently in the gloom. Wherever they ran, the children remained forever whispering, forever watching. The night was far from over. What horror awaited them next as they fled into the unknown? The chill of the night wrapped around them as they stumbled away from the door. Each step into the darkness felt like entering a twisted nightmare, far removed from the safety of home. The laughter lingered in the air, an echo of something sinister that refused to fade. They moved as one, but each pair of feet carried a different weight of dread. We need to get to the car, Mom urged, her voice nearly swallowed by the shadowy forms that danced just beyond their sight. She glanced over her shoulder, and her stomach twisted as she thought she saw a shimmering apparition. It shifted like water, reflected in the pale moonlight. Tommy tightened his grip on Lily's hand, his knuckles turning white. What about the others? He whispered, glancing back at the looming structure. Somehow the building looked more alive, its walls almost breathing, as if it were hungry for them. Not now, Dad barked, a renewed sense of urgency thrumming in his veins. They couldn't linger, couldn't think. They had to keep moving. They dashed across the cracked pavement, the gravel crunching beneath their feet. The shadows shifted ominously, appearing to pulse as if they were alive, stretching toward them with ghastly tendrils. Each breath felt heavier, dark and thick with a hint of decay. As they reached the car, Dad fumbled with the keys, his hands slick with sweat. The familiar jingling felt like a morbid dirge in the thick silence. Come on, he muttered. The locks clicked, and the doors swung open. They piled into the vehicle, slamming the doors shut as if it could create a barrier between them and the horror left behind. The engine roared to life, breaking the suffocating stillness. But before he could shift into gear, an urgent knock rattled the passenger side window. The air turned frigid as Dad turned slowly, his heart racing. There, with eyes wide and gleaming like two spots of light in the dark, stood a girl. Her face was too familiar. Help me, she whispered, her voice fragile, trembling like a leaf in the wind. It was a sweet echo mixed with malicious intent, pulling at something deep within them. They knew her. It was Leah, a radiant spirit from their past. Mom gasped. No, it can't be. Fear mixed with confusion. The Leah they remembered was vibrant, full of laughter. But this Leah was different. The way she stood, her shadow longer, darker, the faint outlines of her former self blurred. Let me in. I don't want to play anymore, she pleaded, her innocence stark against the backdrop of the gathering storm. Behind her, swirling shadows danced and swirled, threatening to engulf her. Don't roll down the window, Dad shouted, panic bleeding through his voice. But the girl's face twisted, her features straining into a mask of sorrow. Please, They want me back. They want all of you. The shadows morphed, growing thicker. The air crackled with tension, clinging to their skin like a dense fog. It was too loud, too chaotic. We can't, it's not her. Tommy cried, desperately glancing between his sister and the window, as the child's laughter resumed from just behind, brighter and more sinister. The car jolted as Dad slammed it into reverse, tires screeching against the gravel. In a nightmarish flicker, Leah's face twisted, her eyes darkening to hollows of despair. Then the laughter peaked, surging into an unbearable crescendo, drowning out all reason. It pressed down on them, a heavy weight that demanded they stay, join in their twisted game. Go, go, Mom screamed, throwing her weight into the door, shaking it to emphasize urgency. But Dad couldn't seem to move. The shadows writhed, coiling like serpents around the car. They filled the windshield, swirling chaos, an ever-tightening fist gripping his resolve. Drive, Dad, Tommy yelled, the terror palpable as he struck the dashboard. But the questions burned in the air like embers. Was running even an option? And if they fled, what would become of them? Suddenly quiet, the darkness loomed closer, the whispering growing deafening. You can't escape, you will play with us. As the whispers closed in, they all knew one thing for sure. The school was still here, and so were the lost children with a thirst for companionship much darker than they could fathom. With their lives hanging in the balance, could they truly break free? Or would they be the next pieces in a hellish game? The laughter faded, but the shadows pressed in closer, filling the space with a weight that felt almost tangible. Dad's breath came quick and shallow, the moment stretching into an eternity. He finally slammed the gear into drive, swinging the car toward the exit. Go, Tommy yelled again, his voice sharp with fear. But the car didn't move. Instead, it lurched forward, rattling against unseen barriers. Why won't it go? Dad's hands trembled on the wheel. The headlights flickered, illuminating the encroaching darkness, but where they shone, there was nothing, only air and silence. That is not Leah, Lily shouted, her tone fierce, echoing her brother's desperate plea, a plea that fell on deaf ears, swallowed by the growing gloom. In the split second of clarity, Tommy's eyes darted to the rearview mirror. He could make out shadows back there, shifting figures just beyond the glass. We have to get out now. With a sudden jolt, the car roared forward like a trapped beast finally finding its way, tires screeching against the gravel as they raced into the night. But relief was fleeting. The laughter erupted again, louder this time, as if the shadows themselves took joy in their panic. Their haunting melody filled with all the intentions of a promise long broken. They hurtled through the entrance to the dreadful place, but the path was unfamiliar. The road ahead twisted into a morass of blackness, each turn revealing more shadowy figures flitting just out of sight. Tommy's heart hammered relentlessly. Where are we going? He gasped. Mom twisted in her seat, fear etching deeper lines on her face. I don't know, but we can't stop. They swerved and spun, but every route they chose felt like a loop, circling back, taunting them. The overwhelming urge to escape fused with an inexplicable pull, the car leading them towards something greater. A whisper reverberated through the vehicle, lacing itself into their thoughts. Stay with us, shut it out, Dad shouted, gripping the wheel until his knuckles turned white. Yet the whispers crawled under his skin, making him feel heavy, dragging him down. Look, Lily cried, pointing into the woods that flanked the road. Shadows darted, elongated figures twisting into grotesque shapes, their mouths stretched in silence, as if waiting for something beyond mere words. Turn, Tommy urged. Get away from them. But Dad seemed mesmerized, trapped as they veered off the main road into a narrower path littered with forgotten leaves. He pressed the gas harder, but the engine emitted a weary groan. It matched their deepening dread, mimicking the terror of being hunted. The laughter surged again, joining the cacophony of whispers. I can't, Dad struggled, his legs shaking, incapacity creeping into his resolve. They felt it too, the car growing heavier around them, and the shadows converging, drawing closer together in a vast web of sin. Suddenly, the headlights flickered one last time before plunging them into total darkness. The car rolled to a stop, headlights extinguished. Out! Mom screamed, throwing open her door. The metallic clang echoed against the swirling nothingness. The moment she stepped out, The laughter intensified, a sinister wave ready to crash down upon them. Without a thought, Tommy grabbed Lily's hand. "Run!" he yelled, and together they bolted into the fog, away from the car, away from the game they had been thrust into. But as they raced forward, the darkness closed in, a thick, suffocating blanket. The echoes of laughter followed them, darting around their ears, whispering promises of what awaited if they should falter. "Where do we go?" Lily cried, fear screeching in her voice. Tommy glanced around, panic clawing at his insides. They were adrift in a void, with the ominous shadows at their backs. "I don't know. Just don't look back." A sudden crash sounded behind them, and both children stumbled to a halt. They turned, hearts racing, breathless with terror. From the darkness, a figure emerged, a girl with hollowed eyes, a relic of the lost past, and she was no longer calling for help. Instead, she grinned. "You've come to play at last." As they spun back to flee, an ominous shift in the air hinted that salvation may not be as far as they thought. A low growl rumbled from the woods beyond, deep and guttural. "What was that?" Tommy whispered, chills creeping up his spine. And then they realized they weren't truly alone in the wrap of darkness the forest breathed, awakening as though it had been waiting for them. What awaited them in the depths of the woods? Only a choice would remain: run or face the lurking evil with a name. The laughter rang in their ears, a twisted symphony that harmonized with the growling shadows, drumming hard against their rib cages. Tommy and Lily locked eyes, the unspoken understanding binding them tighter than ever. They had to run, yet each step felt heavier, as if the darkness itself conspired to push them down. "Keep going," Tommy urged, his voice barely above a whisper. They stumbled forward, the fog wrapping around them like an insidious arm, damp and cold. Each step crunched broken twigs beneath their feet, breaking the silence. But the sound seemed swallowed just as quickly, lost in the distance behind them. Out of breath, Lily's dark hair whipped around her face, obscuring her vision. "I can't see anything." Panic rippled through her voice, thick like the mist. Ahead of them, the trees loomed like sentinels, quiet yet alert, a canopy of despair that whispered danger. The air grew colder, charged with a dreadful energy that made their hair stand on end. "Just keep moving," Tommy said, glancing behind them. They were alone, or so they hoped. The shadows danced in the periphery, teasing them, pulling at their minds. It felt as if they were being watched, though they couldn't quite place the source of the gaze. Suddenly, a rush of wind swept through the trees, breaking the eerie silence. Something was out there. A rustle, a snapping of branches unmistakably close. Tommy's heart leaped into his throat, fear clawing deeper into his gut. "Do you hear that?" he breathed. Lily nodded, her eyes wide and glistening with fear. A flash of movement caught Tommy's eye. "Run," he shouted, bolting toward a cluster of trees that stood more densely together, hoping to find some sort of sanctuary. But the moment they ducked under the branches, the laughter surged. It was close now, a cacophony of childish giggles interwoven with something darker, more malicious. It pooled around the base of the trees, a swirling miasma that threatened to pull them in. The scent of damp earth and decay filled their noses, nauseating in its intensity. "Tommy," Lily shouted, falling to a knee as her foot caught in the roots. He turned to help her, but before he could reach her, the girl from before, the one with the hollow eyes, emerged from the shadows. Her smile widened, revealing teeth far too sharp for a child. "Are you scared?" she asked, a sing-song lilt to her voice that belied the menace lurking just beneath the surface. "Get away from her," Tommy yelled, panic igniting his instincts. But the girl simply laughed, a sound that chilled his bones. "Don't you want to play?" "You shouldn't have run." Before Tommy could retort, a shadow moved behind the girl, a looming presence that made the air go still. An indistinct form, massive and shifting, crawled forward from the trees. It had a shape something between animal and man, eyes glowing faintly as it took a step closer. Tommy could feel the ground vibrating beneath its weight, a primal fear dancing in his heart. "Run." He shoved Lily upright, pulling her along as they stumbled away from the girl and the shadow closing in. Their feet pounded against the forest floor, but it felt futile. Every tree felt like it shifted, closing off potential escape routes. "Tommy, this way," Lily shouted, finding an opening between the gnarled trees, but the heavy breaths behind them urged them on like a sinister partner in their sprint. They burst onto a clearing, gasping for breath, disoriented. A shallow pool of dark water reflected nothing but the sky, the moon hidden behind clouds. It felt wrong. It felt like a trap. "Do you feel that?" Tommy asked, an instinctual shiver racing down his spine. The air thickened, pregnant with malice. "But the shadows," Lily stuttered. Before she could finish her sentence, a flash of light erupted in the clearing, illuminating the space for a split second, and they both saw her, another figure, an adult, this time a woman, standing at the edge. She reached out with a trembling hand, her mouth moving as though trying to say something, but the words were lost, drowned beneath the rising laughter. "Come here, sweethearts," the woman beckoned, her face twisted with desperation, cloaked in shadow. Tommy hesitated, fear clawing at his insides. Was she friend or foe? Suddenly, the shadows surged around the pool, dark and thick, slithering like a living thing, ready to consume everything in their path. "Which way, Tommy?" Lily cried, her eyes wide with terror. And in that tremulous heartbeat, with evil closing in and the laughter rising to a fever pitch, they faced a choice: a leap into madness or the grasp of a potential savior. But the air crackled with uncertainty, and only one question echoed in their minds. Would they choose the darkness or fight the shadows that wanted to consume them? Lily's heart raced as fear pulsed through her blood. The woman's face twisted with a mix of hope and desperation, but the shadows thrumming around them left no room for trust. "Do we really go to her?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the encroaching dark. "Maybe we can find a way out," Tommy replied, but doubt hovered thick in his throat. The shadows danced nearer, licking at their ankles with a cold, predatory hunger. "Tommy," Lily's voice cracked, panic bubbling just beneath the surface. "What if she is tricking us?" "We can't." A dissonant laugh cut through her words. The girl with hollow eyes was back, her laughter like ice slicing through the tension. "Why don't you listen to her? She wants to help you. Or maybe she just wants to play." Before they could react, the shifting mass in the darkness surged forward, a monstrous blur of teeth and limbs, snapping branches with a horrifying crunch. "Run!" Tommy shouted, yanking Lily with him, darting toward the woman's shadowy figure. The air thickened with the scent of rot, a visceral reminder of the horrors they faced. Lily stumbled, her foot catching on unseen roots that gripped like claws. With sheer instinct, Tommy didn't look back as he pulled her through the thickening fog. "Please." The woman's voice rang, powerful yet racked with sorrow. "You have to trust me." Just then, the ground shook violently, the pool of dark water rippling as something massive surged beneath its surface. Eerie whispers slithered around them, coaxing, promising safety, but at what cost? "I can hear them," Lily gasped, fear pulsing in her eyes. "They want us to drown in that pool." "I would never let that happen," Tommy exclaimed, forcing a semblance of courage into his words. But the closer they got to the woman, the more that truth felt endangered. She reached towards them again, and for a flickering moment, her eyes burned fiercely in the dark, betraying a hidden urgency. "I can save you," she insisted, each word slipping through the shadows like smoke. The glistening surface of the water grew still, but Tommy could see something lurking beneath. His instincts screamed for him to turn and flee. "Lily, don't. We can't trust her." But another laugh shot out from the shadows, mocking them, feeding on their uncertainty. "Don't you want to have some fun?" The girl sang, dancing at the edges of their mind, her hollow eyes gleaming with a sinister invitation. The shadows stirred, beckoning them to follow, to plunge into the darkness where they could join the games forever. Tommy looked at Lily, his heart shattered at the expression of pure terror etched across her face. "We could fight," he offered desperately. "We could fight through the darkness, together." But the shadows writhed closer, an oppressive wave of dread washing over them, squeezing the breath from their lungs. The pooling water shimmered ominously, each ripple reflecting a memory, a forgotten face that seemed too familiar, yet marinated in darkness. "Choose," the woman insisted, her voice sharp and urgent. "Choose now." As the shadows clawed upward, threatening to swallow them whole, Tommy felt the weight of the choice loom heavy. Behind him, the dark laughter shrieked louder, blurring the line between salvation and doom. In that instant of madness, a horrifying thought punctured through. The laughter belonged to lost souls, those who hadn't chosen wisely. Would they succumb, or would they claw their way back to the light? Tommy, Lily's voice trembled. What do we do? Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the clearing twisted, shadows morphing into a swirling vortex. A blinding light erupted from the depths of the pool, illuminating the centermost figures like a desperate beam cutting through despair. Follow me, the woman screamed, her hands beckoning. And then, everything erupted into chaos, the shadows erupting into furious howls as they charged. It became a race against the inevitable. With darkness at their heels, they reached for the woman's hand, their fate tangled in a web of shadows and light. But as their fingers nearly brushed against hers, the light flickered, and a scream something raw and untamed split the darkness. Where would that leave them? What really lurked behind that blinding flash of hope? As they leaped into the unknown, the question unmisted hung between them, a silence echoing within a cacophony of dread. Could their choice lead them to salvation, or just plunge them deeper into the shadows? The world whirled around Tommy and Lily, a wild spin of light and shadow as they lunged forward. Just before they collided with the woman, darkness slammed against them like a wall. They were thrown into an endless void, weightless. For a heartbeat, there was nothing, neither the suffocating darkness nor the blinding light. Just silence, a pause in the chase. Then, it shattered as reality crashed back in. They landed hard, the ground unforgiving beneath them. The soft earth gave way, sending Lily tumbling into a patch of thorny weeds that clawed at her skin. Tommy fell beside her, breathing heavy, the taste of adrenaline sharp in his mouth. Where are we? Lily gasped, scrambling to her feet, her gaze darting around. That it was night again, but the oppressive darkness felt different. The air shimmered with a strange, suffocating energy, like static before a storm. The trees loomed impossibly tall, their branches twisting in unnatural angles, reaching like skeletal hands. Tommy turned to look for the woman, but found only shadows. We have to get out of here, he urged, his heart racing as panic threatened to swallow him whole. Maybe the woman can still help us, Lily mumbled, wiping dirt from her hands. She took a few hesitant steps forward. She was different. She had that light. Yet, doubt laced her voice, and Tommy could see the uncertainty flaring in her eyes. They moved cautiously through the woodland, heartbeats synchronized with the unsettling chorus of the night whispers skittered just beyond the thin veil of vision, darting like phantoms. Tommy, listen, Lily murmured, her voice trembling. Do you hear that? It's like they're talking to each other. He strained to listen as low murmurs rose and fell, weaving through the trees. What are they saying? He whispered, only half expecting an answer. They're saying. Lily hesitated, her face paling. They're saying we're trapped. Trapped? He swallowed hard, glancing over his shoulder. The air thrummed with hidden dangers, pressing down like a weight. Just then, a rustling echoed from the underbrush, icy fingers tickling the back of Tommy's neck. They froze, hearts pounding in tandem. The shadows around them thickened, coiling like smoke, as two glowing eyes emerged from the darkness. Who dares intrude? A voice hissed, low and scraping against his senses, like fingernails on glass. Tommy stumbled backward, grabbing Lily's wrist tightly. We didn't mean any harm. We're just trying to find our way home. Home. The figure emerged more fully, revealing a twisted face. It was a grotesque mix of human and something much darker, features ill-defined, swirling like ink in water. Home is long gone for you. You may leave your bodies behind. We can take care of that. Lily gasped, panic igniting. No, we want to go with you. Leave us alone, Tommy shouted, gathering the shreds of courage that felt slippery in his hands. Just let us go. The creature tilted its head, a smile that revealed jagged teeth stretching unnaturally wide. But you have chosen. You leaped into the void. It stepped forward, shadows coiling around its limbs, hungry for them. No, we didn't. Lily squeaked, her breath faltering. Suddenly, flashes of memories cut through the darkness, images of laughter, flickering campfires, and the smell of summer nights, the kind of moments that should be safe. Lily, Tommy shouted, his mind racing. It's a game. They're messing with us. Let us run, she cried, breaking free from his grasp to sprint forward. They dashed deeper into the dark, limbs tangling with branches, heartbeats echoing against the thunderous laughter. But the shadows lingered, twisting and turning in their peripheral vision. The laughter rose and fell, following them, echoing every desperate cry they made. "We can't outrun this forever," Tommy yelled, panting, heart hammering. "What do we do?" Lily's voice broke with despair. "We have to find that woman. She has to be here somewhere." But the darkness closed in like a vice, whispering their failures, mocking their every step. As they stumbled into a clearing bathed in an eerie blue glow. They halted. A chilling sight met them. Silhouettes of those who had come before, trapped in despair, their eyes hollow and pleading. "Help us," they chanted, their voices merging into a ghostly symphony of hopelessness. Tommy gripped Lily's arm tighter. "We have to get out. We have to break this cycle." But the whispers grew louder, a dizzying cacophony that threatened to swallow them whole. Just as they turned to flee, a hand dead and cold reached out from the shadows, grasping for Lily. Together, she whispered, her voice resolute, "We have to fight." And as they felt the shadows closing in, a question surged, igniting a flicker of bravery. Would they dare break through the wall of despair? Could they escape, or would they forever be entwined in the stories of the lost? The clearing pulsed with an unnatural energy, casting an eerie blue hue that flickered like a dying flame. Tommy's grip tightened around Lily's arm as they faced the approaching shadows. The hand, cold and clammy, withdrew momentarily before lunging again, clawing through the air with feral desperation. "Back!" Tommy shouted, thrusting his hand forward as if to ward off the advancing darkness. But it only seemed to taunt him, swirling as if laughing. The hollow-eyed figures surrounding them seemed to shift, their mouths moving in rhythm with the deafening sound of whispering. A wave of despair washed over Tommy, threatening to drown him. "We have to move. Now." He yanked Lily toward the far edge of the clearing, but the shadows writhed and twisted, forming a barrier of despair. "Go, go," he urged, pushing her ahead of him. They darted through the spectral figures, who raised their hands in supplication while their empty eyes followed every frantic movement. Lily gasped, "They need us." "They're trying to not now," Tommy shouted, adrenaline propelling him forward. There would be time to help later if they survived this. As they sprinted, the whispers intensified, a dissonant symphony amplifying their fear. "Leave your body behind, join us," the voices cooed with maddening insistence. Tommy's heart thundered in his chest, colder than the hand that had tried to grab Lily. "We can't listen," he cried, shaking his head to dispel the words swirling in his mind. Then, a chill descended, heavy and palpable. They reached the opposite edge of the clearing, but there was no path forward, only a cliff, jagged rocks looming like teeth ready to bite. "Look!" Lily pointed frantically. A faint glow threaded through the treetops, cutting through the heavy night. "Maybe it's the woman. We can find her." Without pause, they turned to the light, weaving through the monstrous trees that seemed to grasp at them as they ran. The ground slicked with damp earth and creeping roots threatened to trip them. They burst into another clearing, and the atmosphere shifted. The shadows fell back momentarily, retreating into the depths of the surrounding trees. A figure materialized within the glow, an ethereal woman, radiant with that same light Tommy remembered. "Help us!" Lily cried, relief flooding her voice. But as they approached, the light began to flicker, and Tommy's heart sank. "No, wait, is she here to help us, or?" The woman smiled, but it was twisted, her features sharp and angular. "You shouldn't have come here. Once the threshold is crossed, the darkness follows." "What do you mean?" Tommy shouted, frustration boiling over. "Can't you see we're trapped?" "Trapped?" she echoed, her voice both melodic and chilling. "This place, it feeds on your fear." The shadows surged forward again, growing bolder, surrounding them with relentless energy. "It thrives on despair," she continued, her grim smile widening. "And you too are prime offerings." "No." They screamed together, panic igniting a wild desperation. Tommy felt the ground give way beneath them, as if the very earth was swallowing everything in its path. They fell into darkness, the world tipping on its side. The sounds of laughter grew fainter, replaced by an echoing hum that filled their ears. Suddenly, they hit the ground again, this time on something firm and cold. The light flickered out, and they lay in an oppressive silence. Panic surged. Where were they? One last thought clawed its way to the front of Tommy's mind. That woman's eyes, full of malice, haunted him as he felt himself slipping deeper into the suffocating shadow of despair. "Tommy," Lily whispered, her voice small and trembling. "What if we can't wake up? What if this is it?" A new wave of hopelessness crashed over them like a tidal wave. And just as Tommy opened his mouth to comfort her, a distant sound caught his attention, bitter laughter carried by the wind, creeping closer. Together Lily's voice trailed off, fear swallowing her words. "We can't let them win," but with despair clawing at their resolve. Tommy knew one thing: whatever was coming next, the darkness was only just beginning to reveal its true form. And as that old familiar whisper echoed through the depths of their minds, he realized they hadn't chosen to leap into the void. It had chosen them. Would they fight the pull of the shadows, or join the chorus of the lost? The shadows twisted and wriggled around them, but Danny and Lily felt a strength boiling from within. The fear gripping their hearts began to melt into defiance. This place, this darkness, it sought to consume them, but they wouldn't go down without a fight. "Listen, we're not afraid of you," Tommy shouted into the thick gloom, the echoed laugh of despair reverberating back at them, mocking him. "We choose hope," Lily added, her voice quaking yet resolute. The laughter ceased abruptly, replaced by a profound quiet that felt heavier than before. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if caught off guard by their refusal to be claimed. For a fleeting moment, the air seemed to shimmer around them, holding onto the raw energy of defiance. Tommy turned to Lily. "We have to find a way out. The only option is to defeat the darkness while we still can." They looked at each other, determination igniting in their eyes. Together, they took a deep breath, anchored by the bond forged through fear, love, and an overwhelming will to survive. As they pressed forward, they envisioned light, the warmth of day, bright laughter, the smell of fresh air filling their lungs. They had to reach that light. With resolve, they sprinted into the dark, refusing to look back. Every inch they advanced felt like wading through quicksand, but they felt the shadows part, hesitating as if uncertain of their newfound stance. "Where are you?" A voice echoed from the rear, surfacing from the darkness like a siren's call. The girl with hollow eyes appeared, grinning with twisted pleasure. "You can't escape. You belong with us. We don't belong to anything." "Not to you," Tommy yelled back, his voice steady and harsh against the shadows. They pushed forward even harder, feeling the energy of their emotions swirl around them, a protective shield. Then, as if the world tilted, the glow of the distant light intensified, a radiant beacon piercing through the gloom. It flickered, growing larger, enveloping them in warmth and clarity. "Look," Lily shouted, pointing toward the source, the hope illuminating their path. It danced like fireflies, guiding them home. Without hesitating, they moved toward it, each step fueled by the bond they shared and the collective strength of their resolve. The shadows shrieked in anguish, slashing at the edges of their determination, but Lily and Tommy pressed on, clenching hands tighter. "We can make it." With each stride, they could feel the grip of despair loosening like a bad dream evaporating at dawn. The whispers of the lost echoed in agony, rising like smoke, but their words warped into a sound of fading laughter. Losing the potency it once held, the light shimmered invitingly, wrapping them in its embrace just as they might reach the surface after a long hold underwater. They burst through, a cascade of warmth enveloping them, sparking deep joy at finding sanctuary. Then they were free, standing at the edge of the clearing, breathless and wide-eyed, as if awakening anew. The gloom hung behind like a distant storm. With every labored breath, they could feel the darkness retreating, pushed back by their courage and unleashed spirit. "Did we really escape?" Lily gasped, her chest rising and falling through relief and disbelief. Tommy blinked at the swirling woods behind them, now only a distant silhouette. "Yeah, we did. We fought back." But even as excitement surged through him, he knew something remained, a weight, a longing, ever present. They turned to face each other, smiles illuminating their features. The two of them stood hand in hand, no longer just children in a terrifying tale, but warriors of heart, standing tall against evil they had faced. "Let us go home," Tommy whispered, squeezing Lily's hand. "We have stories to tell, light to bask in." As they strolled away from the clearing, the moon shone brighter overhead, guiding them along a path of safety. The screeching laughter faded into silence, lost in the recesses of the night, a reminder that they had defeated, if only for today, the lurking despair. But as hope enveloped them, they would never forget what lay behind what they had emerged from and the weight of their choice to walk away from the shadows. They were free, yet forever changed. The night had turned into dawn, cleansing the darkness with its golden embrace. And as they stepped into that new beginning, they realized they carried on the energy of light and hope, a reminder for them and everyone that the darkest corners could never reclaim those who dared to fight. Their adventure continued, life full of promise waiting to unfold. Now that you've reached the conclusion of this thrilling journey, I need you to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and I want to see you flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support keeps the stories coming. Let us rise up together.